some boogie we will. Ladies and gentlemen, for the Fringe FM, coming at you live from the middle of nowhere, the center of everywhere, here once again to give you yet another scrumtrelescent dose of conversational boogie. This is Shift Happens. Oh yeah! Do follow us on Twitter over at Shift Happens Pod. You can follow me, Gigi, over at GigiRabbit1, and all of our other social media links can be found over at shifthappensradio.com. And also, I believe if he's ready, joining us as per usual is our trusty co-host JP. What's happening, JP?
Hey, hello everyone. I don't know if you can hear, but yeah. Back for another Friday night.
All right. Yeah, loud and clear, my friend. Loud and clear. And yeah, we've got one hell of a show for you guys tonight. We've got Ryan Burns from Space Wolf Research and our good friend Jeff Renel joining us tonight. We'll be getting into some Skinwalker, some UFOs, and all kinds of other goodness tonight. And we'll be bringing them on just a few minutes here. And yeah, so for those of you that missed it, JP and I were on the Jess Rogie show last night. And we had a really awesome time, didn't we, JP?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun show.
That was a great show.
Absolutely. And we hung out for a couple hours after the show, too, and had a really fantastic conversation, which we're going to have to do that the next time we're on the show. We had some good, wholesome, spiritual, psychedelic talk, and we went deep. But yeah, definitely check out last night's episode of the Jess Rogie Show if you missed it. And she's got a cool show coming up tonight, too. She's going to have Night Stalker on. And that's always a very fascinating time with the good old Night Stalker. And,
I don't know if it was us, but Jess was fully back. I think that was the consensus, too, from her fans, that she sounded like she was in a great mood. I think all three of us were, and it just worked. It's really good. Yeah,
absolutely. And hey, what's up, everybody in the chat rooms, over in the speaker chat? We've got MJ, Eric Awakening Man, Maya, Lily, Daryl, MJ, Dragon Rose, Sarah, Ann. What is happening, folks? And over in the Discord, we've got also Dragon Rose and MJ, and then Kat is over there in the Fringe FM Discord chat. And Kat mentions that she actually was blocked from Spreaker. I guess they have algorithms over there now somehow. That's crazy. That never used to be a thing. Am I reading that right, Kat? Did you get banned from Spreaker? That's amazing. I've never heard of that happening before. And yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. And we've got a little new feature for the show, ladies and gentlemen, is the addition of you can buy us a coffee. If you want to help support the show for a little, just a little bit, you can buy me and JP and our guests a coffee. If you go to buymeacoffee.com/shifthappens, you can buy us a cup. You could buy 2 cups. You could buy 25 cups or whatever you want. Any little chip in helps, and we appreciate you. And God Almighty knows we could use some coffee. Can I get an amen? Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Amen. Hallelujah.
Absolutely. Buymeacoffee.com/shifthappens. And Bob Tuscan always asking, is this live? Yes, my friend. This is live.
Like every other show we've done.
Absolutely, yes. We're always live. We never are not. Well, when the show's happening, it's live. Let's see. Yeah, so Kat says she was blocked from commenting. And on Spreaker. Wow, that's amazing. You must have really gone deep on the deep state. Very interesting. I wonder what exactly you said. Do you remember exactly what you said? I would be interested in hearing that. But who knows? You might get blocked from the new Discord algorithms now, too, just for saying that. So maybe not. Maybe not say that. But I am curious. So what's going on, JP? How's your day been? How you doing?
We finally got a little bit of water falling from the skies today. Finally. And then, of course, I realized that I hadn't changed my windshield wipers in so long, and the summer was so crispy and hot. So I turned it on, and it no, I've never seen this, but it looked like an octopus. It just exploded. And there was just like all these, little rubber parts flying everywhere. So I stopped and did that, just like everybody else. By the way, there was a big line at the auto parts store, just all of us standing there like dummies with our windshield wipers.
There you go. Yeah, I guess you guys are going to be catching the ends, the remnants of that hurricane that's going on. What is it, a hurricane or a tsunami or something going on out there?
Yeah, we seem to be getting Texas weather like the following week. So you guys have cooled off. I expect us to maybe cool off a little bit by next week sometime.
Yeah, it's been surprisingly not that hot out here, comparatively. And all right, Kat says she can DM me and let me know the drama. Yeah, definitely DM me what exactly you said. I'm very curious to know what sort of content gets banned from Spreaker. Very curious to know. So, yeah, there you go. And let's see what. Yep. Okay. What else? That's really about it. Just a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, the good folks over at Got Hemp Extracts. Go to gothempextracts.com for all of your nanoparticulate CBD needs, which is the nanoparticulate process simply means that on a molecular level, the CBD is broken down much, much, much smaller, so you can digest it much, much, much more efficiently. There's only a handful of companies in the world that use the nanoparticulate process, and Got Hemp Extracts is one of them. They have pre-rolled CBD joints, CBD vape cartridges, regular CBD oil, CBD water solubles. They've got canned cold coffee infused with about 2 days worth of CBD in each can. And it's delicious. And you can order any of these CBD products over at gothempextracts.com. Use the promo code SHIFTHAPPENS and you will save yourself 10% off of your order. I really love those pre-rolled CBD joints. And I'll tell you, they're a little hot too. They're a little hot. Get you a little buzz. And they make you feel fantastic. But there you go. And without any further ado, let's see. Am I missing something? Oh, yes. There is one other thing. I want to give a quick shout out to the great and powerful Sega Dreamcast. That's right. On this day, 23 years ago, 9/9/99, the famous date, the Sega Dreamcast was launched. Sega's final home console that ever was, and my favorite console of all time, the most powerful console of all time relative to the time it was released, the first console to come, built in with a modem and online gaming capabilities, and also the first console to have DLC content. And I just have nothing but love for the Sega Dreamcast, and I celebrate their birthday, the birthday of the Dreamcast, every year. And surely after this show, I'm going to be playing some Sega Dreamcast myself. Believe you me, hallelujah, all the nerds out there. You know what I'm talking about. All right. And now, without any further ado, let's get our guests in here. So from Space Wolf Research, we've got Ryan Burns, and then joining us also is Jeff Renel, Theta Healer Extraordinaire from eTalk TV. What's happening, guys?
Good to be here.
Yeah.
What's happening, everybody?
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming in on such short notice, too. We didn't know. Just last night, we didn't know what we were going to do today, and we put together a solid crew for a solid show. So thank you guys for coming on in such short notice.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, man. And well, first of all, Jeff, you're actually at a conference right now, or you're out there for the conference. I think you just left, but you'll be back there tomorrow, right? And that is Phenomicon, right?
That is correct. Up in Vernal, Utah. I was just up there today. Today was my first day. I believe it started yesterday. They did a few things yesterday, but today was a really good day. They had a lot of great speakers up there today, a lot of people I was excited to see. The only downfall, which I can't blame them though, because I've been to enough big conferences to know how it goes, but unfortunately a lot of the people I was excited to see all were speaking at basically the same time, so I missed like two of the speakers I was really excited to see today in order to see another one that I was excited to see. So it's been a lot of fun, but I'm disappointed that I missed a couple speakers that I desperately wanted to see.
So who are some of these speakers that were on the bucket list?
Well, one that I didn't get a chance to see today was April Slaughter, and one of the reasons I'm really interested is because of our other guest, Ryan, and some of the stories that he's mentioned to me about her and up here at Space Wolf Research and some of the things that has happened to her. So I really wanted to get to know a little bit more about her and get a chance to talk with her, which I haven't had a chance to do yet. So she's one that I missed. Trying to think of the other person, because these are all new people that I have never really been introduced to before, but these are people that are researching Bigfoot. They're familiar with Uinta Mesa up here, and the more I'm researching up here, and again, a lot of gratitude to Ryan Burns here, because the things that I'm learning up here at the Uinta Mesa is just blowing my mind, absolutely blowing my mind. I mean, this place is so crazy and has such a rich history. It's unbelievable. I mean, every day I'm learning something new that is just taking me to a whole different level, and I'm getting excited. Tomorrow I'm really looking forward to hearing Terry Carter and Ryan, I'm sure you know his partner's name. What is it? Kent something. They're treasure hunters. They both just threw an event up in Duchesne, Utah, which is about, hour and a half away from where I'm at right now. About a month ago, Ryan spoke there, and Ryan told me and Eric at Awakening Man about it. We've all met up there. And it was an amazing event. And we heard a lot of things about treasure hunting, Bigfoot, and all these crazy things from locals about the Uinta Mesa. And let me tell you, I mean, me and Eric both were just like in awe about all these stories that we're hearing about up here. Everything from giants to Bigfoot. I mean, I'm telling you, this place has a rich history. Aztecs, you name it. It's all been up here. The Israelites. Sorry, I'm terrible with English, but I mean, this place has it all. This is an amazing place. Ryan can definitely take you further on that here, but I'm having a great time at Phenomicon. I'm looking forward to seeing Terry Carter and them tomorrow. I saw James Keenan today, and he's another big researcher up here in the Uinta Basin. Here.
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit, Jeff. Do we still got you here?
Sounds like he's getting close to... There he is.
No, he's cutting out for me too.
Yeah, that happens. That happens when you get close to Space Wolf Research in certain areas there in the Uinta Basin. It's weird. The things that happen to phones, and it's hard to examine exactly why, but yeah, it happens. Hopefully he'll bounce back.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. And
I would like to say hi to Ryan. I'm JP. I know I am on in some social network with you somewhere, because I know your name really well, and I've seen stuff that you've said, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to figure that out as we go along today.
Yeah, man, your name sounds super familiar too. I think we have talked before.
Okay, I believe so too. It must have been here.
Yeah, I think we did. Actually, the last time Ryan was on, Jeff was also on, and Ryan was on for the second half of the show. And it was a
memory. Quick
little episode. And but yeah, so this time we got Ryan for the full 2-hour boogie, and long overdue for this. So Ryan, I heard you caught some interesting footage. What was it? Jeff was telling me about this. Like, you caught some interesting footage yesterday or the day before.
Yeah, man, it was very strange because I kind of watched the cameras diligently, and nothing's happened for quite some time. We have a variety of cameras there on the property, extensive variety of cameras, and we have everything from like Garmin infrared and thermal imaging cameras to Arlo Pro 4s, Wise Cams, Reolinks. Anyway, you name it, Spy Points. We've got all these cameras, and yeah, a lot of them are aimed at the sky. We have some that are tracking cameras, so if they sense something moving, they will track it. And Jeff arrived at the property last night, from what my cameras told me, at about 10:51 p.m. Mountain Time. And at 10:52, so roughly 60 seconds after I saw his car go through the gate, this strange, it's so hard to explain, this strange, almost like undulating worm snake / this thing about the size of a dog leash that was glowing, just kind of worked its way down the road towards where he was. And it was about 7-8 feet off the ground, maybe 12 feet at the highest. And I sent him an image of it, and I mean, it took about 60 seconds, and my first thought was, did the precognitive and sentient intelligence know he was there? Like, the bait was, the bait was there, and it was time to play. It's just really coincidental that I've been keeping an eye on the cameras and nothing has really popped out for quite some time. And then I have Jeff go back to an area of the property that has been fairly active, and within 60 seconds, there's something strange in the air going towards him. So yeah, just interesting, man. Maybe just coincidence. It might be easily explained, but it is it's strange. I've got some guys that have been working with theoretical astrophysics, and they have been pinpointing some very strange things in that area. So I don't know. It's hard to distinguish the coincidence from the real the real science. It's hard to keep it reputable and keep the evidence reputable when there's just a worldwide community of dedicated scientists which have helped a ton to assess this stuff. But when you examine it, in that close proximity, 60 seconds, since his boots are on the ground and then something is in the air, it's just strange.
Yeah, and just to be clear, for those that don't know, you, you're out there, you're right by Skinwalker Ranch, right? Relatively close.
Yeah, Space Wolf Research is right adjacent to the south boundary of that property, and it follows a waterway that has been fairly active. Jeff mentioned April Slaughter, one of the presenters there, and strangely, her and some other researchers went to Space Wolf Research before it was Space Wolf Research. It used to be called, among the researchers, it used to be called the Southern Vantage Point, because it was a property that was abandoned for some time, much like the property to the north. And it was abandoned for some time, and it was a lot easier to see everything. It has kind of a 360-degree view in all directions, and it's very, very easy to see things moving back and forth through that territory, going along that ridge line, or even to the area to the south of there. And it's close to a lot of the tree line, like I mentioned, and the waterways, which is where a lot of the cryptozoological entities and stranger shape-shifting entities that were seen by a lot of the DoD scientists, etc., tended to manifest from and retreat to. So a lot of stuff happens in that area. And there's a voluminous bunch of files that attest to that. April Slaughter went with a group of researchers, and I remember hearing this story from them, and it is by far one of the scariest and darkest tales of encountering some of these entities that I've come across. And not just to make a long story short, they went up. This small ranch was not occupied. It was abandoned for all intents and purposes. They worked their way into the property. They set up camp. Within a few moments, they had strange things happening. Their emotions were going up and down. They did a quick blood ritual. They were all in the medical profession, very intelligent people, good researchers, good people. And they encountered some strange black crab, a large black crab that came up to one of them as they were sitting around the fire, jumped on his leg. They thought this was super funny, which is not typically the reaction that people would have. And this happens a lot of times. It seems like your emotions are dialed up or dialed down or not quite right. The polarity's off. You're crying one minute and laughing the next, and kind of toyed with. And then Rich, who was known as Papa Croc in musical circles there in Salt Lake City, Utah, really big guy, really nice guy. He had an encounter with this wispy, tall entity that lifted him from his neck. And, Rich is a really big guy, and lifted him from his neck off of the ground 2 or 3 feet and looked deep into him. And April had her own events take place with some missing time. Just one of the creepiest stories ever. And I never knew where the exact location of this, where it happened, was until after I bought Space Wolf Research. And in talking to April years and years later, many years later, she told me, yeah, that's where it happened. And so it was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. But the whole area is just rampant playground for what I like to call a precognitive sentient intelligence, or that term was actually coined by Colonel John Alexander, father of non-lethal weaponry for the military. And he examined a lot of startling phenomena in the area, as well as unidentified flying objects. And in my opinion, put it in pretty good terms. It's precognitive. It knows what you're going to do before you're doing it for the most part. It's sentient, and it's definitely intelligent. And that's just a little tidbit, just a little taste of some of the stuff that goes on up there.
Right on. And let's see. Well, first of all, very fascinating. Second of all, we have to go to a commercial break. But third of all, Jeff, can you hear us? And I had to mute you because of the noise, but can you unmute yourself? Can you try that? It's weird. I can mute, but I can't unmute.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I did hear him chime in, but not sure.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. We will, let's go ahead and take our first... Oh, there it goes. Okay, so he can unmute himself. Are you there, Jeff?
I am, but I don't know if I'm unmuted.
Yes. Yeah, you're unmuted. Okay, perfect. And, all right, good deal. So let's go ahead and cut to our first commercial break, and when we come back, we'll dive right back in. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Shift Happens here for the Fringe FM. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP, and we are here... Yeah, we are here tonight with Ryan Burns from Space Wolf Research and Jeff Renel from eTalk TV. And we'll be back here in just a few short commercially minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Listen, as we explore the mysteries of the universe, the unknown, high strangeness, consciousness, and our human potential, Lighting the Void is an eclectic program that strives to ignite the late night with stimulating conversations. Join us on the Fringe FM.
Yohoy there, it's Gigi from Shift Happens, and you're listening to the one and only Fringe FM. Well, at least I'd imagine so. I'm not sure how else, you'd be hearing this.
Musicians experience a lot of frustration with music marketing and promotion. They have no idea how to get their music heard, and they're spending hours sending emails, making phone calls, and hitting up their friends to promote them. With our industry-powered digital marketing platform, we can set up your media plan in minutes. Our team will automatically distribute your music across all the best channels, so you can focus on actually making the music. Submit your music today on our website at mymusicpromoter.com. That's mymusicpromoter.com.
My name is Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Are you avoiding the media? I don't blame you. Hi, I'm Jess Rogie, and it's my job to sift through the BS to find you the best in Fringe news. Listen to the Rogie Report news here on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. The truth is out there, and so are we.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Have you suffered in silence or experienced stress from a paranormal experience? Even if it happened 20 years ago, when thinking or talking about it today still makes you feel sick to your stomach or makes your heart beat faster, or you suddenly can't breathe. Maybe you even feel those old familiar signs of a panic attack trying to reach the surface. You could have unprocessed emotional responses. Those reactions of terror and trauma are no different than living through a horrible assault, childhood abuse, or a terrible car accident. It can be nearly impossible to find help. The very instance of seeing a ghost or encountering a cryptid could be clinically described as seeing or hearing things that aren't there. You could be considered psychotic, or at best, you're just not taken seriously. Out of a growing mountain of research, the National Institute for Integrative Healthcare showed that 8 out of 10 veterans who completed just 6 one-hour EFT sessions no longer tested positive for PTSD. If you've had paranormal trauma, you can contact Metaphorical Archaeology by calling 214-995-3754. Again, that's 214-995-3754. For a discreet consultation. Thousands of people are having paranormal experiences with ghosts, demons, shadow people, dogmen, Bigfoot, and more. Their stories need to be told, and they are being told. Dark Waters, a renowned storyteller, invites you to join at IamDarkWaters.com. For just a few dollars a month, you can listen to some of the most hair-raising and compelling stories on the planet. You'll have access to real-life stories told by Dark Waters, thousands of hours of content. Their encounters are being told, and told by the best. at IamDarkWaters.com. Listen to stories like The Rabbit Man, the Dogman Encounter in Silas, Alabama, The Man with No Face, The Other Woman, A Day Ahead of the Devil, Dogman Murder and Hurricane Ida, even a story of someone trying to kill a dogman. Louisiana Water Demon stories. Sign up today and become a member at IamDarkWaters.com. That's IamDarkWaters.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the Fringe FM, this is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP. And we are here tonight with Ryan Burns from Space Wolf Research Center out there by Skinwalker Ranch, and Jeff Renel from the great eTalk TV. And real quick, for those of you that are new to the show or have never experienced the chat rooms before, we do have 2 chat rooms for the show, which is a great way to hang out with the rest of the audience and get your questions in. The first of which is over at Spreaker, which is basically the OG chat room. The quickest way to get there is just go to shifthappensradio.com, and in the middle of the homepage is the episode player. Find the current episode at the top of the list, click the text message icon, and bam, you're invited into the chat room. Make a name for yourself and you're good to go. It's as simple as that. And the other chat room is over at the Fringe FM Discord. The quickest way to get there is go to www.fringe.fm/chat, and you will get an automatic invite into the Fringe FM Discord server. And if you're not familiar with Discord or you've never used it before, Godspeed, because there is quite a learning curve. So if you're not tech savvy, you might want to use the Spreaker chat. But the Discord chat is cool because you can share photos and videos and all kinds of extra stuff, whereas Spreaker is text only. So there you go. And then, of course, we'd like to remind everybody, we've got our new little feature for the show, which is that we borrowed from Jess Rogie, is buymeacoffee.com. That's right, you can buy us a coffee and help support our show for just a few bucks, and God knows we need our coffee to keep the conversational boogie going. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/shifthappens and buy somebody a coffee if you dare. And all right, with that, let's get back to the show. So I've got an interesting question. I want everybody's opinion on this. I was watching the that Skinwalker documentary that Jeremy Corbell did a long time ago. Well, it wasn't that long ago, but several years ago. And I had just a little, almost like an epiphany, just kind of clicked, with all of the activity that goes on around Skinwalker Ranch and the basin out there. I mean, it's not just UFOs. It's not just beings of sorts. It's not just the little, the jokester, there's so many different types of phenomenon that go out there, UFOs being one of them. What do you think about the idea that the UFOs are actually there to study the phenomenon that's happening there without the UFO, because a lot of people think the UFOs are causing a lot of this phenomenon, that they might be the tricksters behind it. But I'm thinking they might be just as curious as we are as to what's going on out there, and perhaps that's why they keep showing up there, is to study the phenomenon. you ever thought about it like that, or what do you think about that? Oh, whoops. I have you guys muted. Sorry, I had you muted. Go ahead. Start over.
Yeah, man. As you mentioned, the jokester or the trickster, that subject in paranormal research is pretty well established. And whatever is doing these things constantly morphs over time. What I've found is, especially with certain sensors and animals and people who are also kind of a biosensor of sorts, the interactions change. And I think that there is a multitude of things taking place at the same time. So much like a freeway, you're going to have semi-trucks, sports cars, SUVs. You're going to have a lot of different visual illusions of these different entities that are sufficiently physical to see, especially with your naked eye from time to time in certain forms, or to see on cameras that are activated or video. But I totally believe that in addition to what you said, some of these incidents of these non-human entities are, well, they're independent of each other. So I do believe that there is a cult taking place there, as well as there's revelatory UFO activity. There is substantial history as far as the Witchery Way, which is kind of the darker depths of Native American lore. And it's not uncommon for wild animals to die really horrific deaths, as well as dogs are specifically physically harmed quite often in unexplained violent incidents. And they're probably one of the best biosensors there is. That's one reason I don't take my dog there, because they will, I mean, aside from the fact that a dog will tell you exactly the direction and when and where this stuff is going to happen, unfortunately, these entities usually participate in harming those animals. So I do think that there's some impressive consistency in what you're saying, that there's a multitude of things taking place. It's like, it's just a ton of different entities converging on the same location. And I think it has a lot of validity.
Right on. And what about you, Jeff?
Am I off mute?
Yep.
It's hard for me to follow up Ryan, because Ryan knows a lot more about this area than I do. And the one thing that I do realize the more I'm here studying is the less I know. So that's a great question. But yes, I think there's amazing things going on here, and it definitely isn't just one thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if, yes, there are aliens here observing what's going on here, or maybe even manipulating a little bit of what's going on here. It's a very interesting place. I don't know where I got cut off earlier, but yes, I mean, the more I start to learn about the Uinta Basin, the more I'm blown away by what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's truly, I mean, it is pretty popular in this community, but I'm surprised it's not more popular and more mainstream, because, I mean, it's just a matter of looking into the stories, which go... How far does all this phenomenon at Skinwalker Ranch go back? Like, has this phenomenon been happening since people first moved there back in the New World days, or did it kick off at a certain point in time in the last century? Like, how long has this stuff been happening out there?
In opinion of the Ute tribe and Native American lore, it has been taking place for at least 15 generations that we're aware of. And Father Escalante, a Spanish priest, along with his assistant Dominguez, were going through the Uinta Basin, specifically in this area in 1776, and they wrote in their journals encountering different kinds of paranormal phenomena that they accepted as being extremely strange or bad medicine, as the Native Americans would put it. So I've checked in with some pretty trusted interpreters and people who go through history with a fine-tooth comb, and that I'm aware of, as long as people have had a verbal history, this has been taking place for quite some time. I mean, it really, there's most likely participants even of the Fremont culture earlier on, which, isn't around anymore, but it's been happening a long time. It's not just, the last 20 years, the last 50 or 100. It would be really easy and a super fresh perspective to just say this is the military, and that's what Terry Sherman originally believed. And he got some pretty amazing photographs that have not been made public that I've seen of some of these craft. And he believed without a shadow of a doubt that, hey, this was just some military project. They were on his land and messing with stuff. And as time went on, his overall concept, I think, may have changed. There is, as we've mentioned, things that seem to be more extraterrestrial, that seem to fall from the heavens and enter our world. There's the occult practitioners, such as the traditional skinwalkers that you hear of practicing the witchery way. And there is a ton of other strange trickster type phenomena that takes place that is independent of those. So cryptozoological creatures, strange animals that are very hard to explain. I have so many firsthand experiences with unbelievable, just unexplicable stuff that it was very difficult for me to ignore it. It's something that I've just had to take on as a passion project, because the concept is so vast and there's just so, making contact with these things is not as difficult. I mean, it's so cool that Jeff is there right now, because and he is in a situation which is ideal. He's there alone, and not to put you in a hard situation, but yeah, that's exactly what you want.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So, hey, let me just add to that a little bit, because, again, it's hard for me to add to anything that Ryan's saying, because Ryan knows this area way more than me. But just a little bit of what James Keenan was showing on his presentation today. He was showing some petroglyphs in this area out here that date back to the Fremont people and beyond. Actually, they don't even know where some of these petroglyphs came from, but showing things that kind of depict what we're experiencing here from portals and stuff like that. He showed some really amazing petroglyphs that I'm going to have to locate. I mean, he said where they're at, so I'm going to have to, actually locate them myself and figure out where they're at and go to them and take pictures of these and try to understand them. But it's amazing. I mean, the more you study this place, the more crazy, the more bizarre, the more amazing it just gets. I'm so happy I'm here, not only here today at Ryan's place, but just that I've moved to Salt Lake City. This is my playground, and Ryan, I want to talk to you. I'm going to buy some property out here for sure. I don't know where, but I definitely want some property out here in the Uinta Basin, because this is just unbelievable out here. The things that I'm learning, giants, all kinds of stuff. This place is amazing. It has a great history.
Yeah, and I've definitely got to figure out a way to make a trip out there, and because I want to, I'm gonna go out there by myself, maybe stay in one of those rundown cabins and just stay there all night, just see what happens, and kind of like George Knapp did, I guess, although nothing really happened to him, he says. But it's the, because I think Robert Bigelow, what was his research team he had out there for like 20 years? Was it called NIDS?
Yeah, NIDS.
Yeah, and, they would talk about, especially in that documentary, how, kind of like you were saying earlier, they had all types of surveillance of every, recording equipment and trying everything possible to capture stuff. And it's like they knew where they were looking and were very cleverly, like they were one step ahead of them the whole time. And anytime something would happen, like the same thing never happened twice, And so something would happen, they would set up for the next time, but there was no next time, something else would happen. And whatever's going on out there seems to be really intelligent. And I almost wonder if it's somehow like when it comes to the trickster stuff, if it's, I don't know how to put this into words that make a lot of sense, but it's actually the Earth itself, like almost as if the Earth has a consciousness and it's some sort of, yeah, I can't figure out how to say this, but it's some sort of extension of Earth's energy that is, for whatever reason, has been tapped into by these tricksters. And, yeah, I can't really finalize my point there, but I feel like it has something to do with the Earth, like the Earth's way of, kind of, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to drop the point. I don't know how to make it.
Well, but let me, just on that, if you watch what happened in the last season of The Skinwalker, The Secret of the Skinwalker, they had the UAPX team up there. And if this was not fabricated at all, this is pretty impressive, especially it goes off of what you're just saying, Gigi. They were up here. They had a high-tech van that they have that basically will read anything moving in the sky. Just an amazing piece of technology. They were there to scan stuff and read stuff as they shot rockets up into the sky. Every single time, they basically said, ready, launch. That van went down. Every bit of the technology went down. Everything shut down. Every single time. That was over 24 times that they went to go shoot off a rocket. That van shut down right as they were setting ready, launch. And that van shut down. So if they didn't fabricate anything, that's a big telltale sign right there that they do know exactly what we're thinking before we know what we're thinking, and they can manipulate what we're doing. To me, that was really impressive. So hopefully they're not fabricating things, because I can see other series, unfortunately, seem to be fabricating a lot of things. I wouldn't put it past Hollywood to try to sell things that way. But I'm with you there, Gigi. I think it seems to know what we're thinking before we know what we're thinking.
Yeah, and it's interesting how, because there are those crazy, very unexplainable, animal mutilations where these bones are cut with laser precision and there's no blood on the ground. Doesn't make any sense. And some of these happen within just like, there's that one story, it was within a couple of minutes of them leaving their dog, and they came back to go get their dog, and then they found the dog. No blood, no anything, like razor precision on these animals. But they don't seem to do that to, are there any cases of humans being mutilated like that?
Man, you've brought up a pickle.
Hey, wait a minute. Hey, Ryan, you might not want to say this. I'm out here by myself.
I know, man. I was just thinking about that.
I'm just joking. Go ahead. I want to know.
All right. I'll try to avoid that for the moment. But to get back to what you were saying, I really do believe, Gigi, that we may be dealing with a naturally occurring, somewhat predatory entity or entities that have called Earth home for millennia. Yes. And, fundamentally, when it comes to issues with electronics, there has been a lot of work done to get some radiation-hardened, shielded electronics that, run some fast PTZ cameras and other scientific instruments, because what's been found is that there are these radiation spikes and electromagnetic frequency spikes that are transient. They'll take place and they will move. And as you said, it's almost impossible and that to know when and where it's going to happen. And that's kind of where my frustration comes in, but it's also probably the most enticing thing for me is when we are able to anticipate when this happens and it does take place. That is such a win. But finally, I think that in my case, using my own money and most of it just for curiosity's sake, it's such a collective of engineering knowledge. My wife's an engineer, and she helps a lot. But when it comes to these entities, these trickster entities that seem to be able to basically mess with incidents, and this is why it's so hard, and why, in my opinion, eyewitness testimony is super valuable, because it's super disconcerting when cameras go down, time-lapse video isn't available, your protective cases on these things are ripped apart or just disappear completely. It's really spooky. And there is something about the biological sensor that is the human being itself, even though it's more dangerous, from a physical perspective. When the hairs go up on the back of your neck, in my opinion, that's very important, because I've found that in my own analysis, when things take place, there's some things that just cannot be explained from that trickster phenomena. For example, there was a situation where I kind of regretted. I took my mother up to the property and we stayed there for a week. And one night, just to give a quick synopsis, I heard late at night, we were both out. It sounded like the car doors were opening and closing, which is something that's happened before. But this time when I looked out, I saw that the lights inside the car were kind of going on and off. And when I went outside, I looked in the vehicle. There was nobody in there. And it was just an electrical glitch, I guess, on this vehicle, which has never done that before, and this happens. But then I saw what can only be described as like a flashlight or a beam of light coming down from this corner of a structure out there that is used as a Faraday cage and storage and other stuff. And so I went over and I thought maybe there is somebody over there with a flashlight. There was nobody there, and this darn light would go on and off, this beam, and it would always use angles. So it would angle around a building or angle around a structure. And when my mother finally came out and was trying to see what the heck was going on, she also saw the car lights inside the car, looked inside, thought I was in there. I wasn't. And they were colors that the vehicle doesn't have as options. And then on the screens, and et cetera. Wow. And then she saw me standing in this beam of light, kind of like a Travis Walton scenario. And she was very worried. And I said, Mom, no, come on over. Come over. You got to get in here with me. Check this out. And she came over finally, stood in this circular beam of light, was trying to take pictures with her phone, couldn't. There was no way to get a shot of this. And it was the same thing. She said, well, it's obviously coming from around there. We would go around whatever structure it was coming from at that particular moment, and the light would go off. So it uses angles. Whatever is just outside of view is where it likes to be. So it's literally always on the fringe.
Man, that is...
Come on, Gigi. Come hang out with me.
Yeah, man, I definitely need to come out there, and because I will clock in some hours. I'll clock in some hours for sure. I'm not afraid to stay out there, whether it's by myself or if we camp out there or whatever. Yeah, I'm so fascinated with that whole area, and I also, well, you know what? It's 10 o'clock sharp here, so we definitely have to run to our next commercial break. So let's go ahead and get that out of the way, And when we come back, we will dive right back into the conversational boogie. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Shift Happens here for the Fringe FM. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP. And we are here tonight with Ryan Burns from Space Wolf Research out there by Skinwalker Ranch, and Jeff Renel from eTalk TV. We'll be back here in just a few short commercially minutes. Don't go anywhere.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting, thefringe.fm, Napa Valley, California, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Tired of talking about the weather? No, Shift. Well, Shift Happens is here to fulfill your desires as you reach that point in life where you crave tantalizing conversation about reality, ufology, the occult, and the conspiracies within, while simultaneously finding yourself desperately in need of your very own theme music, which we've got plenty of that too. So be sure to tune in to Shift Happens every Friday night from 7 to 9 Pacific, right here on the Fringe FM. Because the weather sucks, and you need some theme music.
Ever seen an extraterrestrial? It can be hard to believe they exist unless you've seen one for yourself. What if I told you I've seen them my whole life, but have never had a witness who shared the encounter with me? Now, what if I told you I saw 4 of them, 2 with blue skin, and there are over 20 witnesses to this CE5 event? My new book, The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, documents actual accounts from real witnesses, many of which have gone on record to attest to this otherworldly reality. Be a part of the quantum paradigm shift that is taking place right now. Go to johnpolkmedia.com to get your copy of The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, on sale right now at johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com.
This is Ronnie LeBlanc, author of Monsterland, Encounters with UFOs, Bigfoot, and Orange Orbs, and you're listening to Shift Happens on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
KTLK Digital Broadcasting. We rock the paranormal talk.
back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, for the Fringe FM. This is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP.
What's going on?
Yeah. And we are here tonight with Ryan Burns from Space Wolf Research Center out there by Skinwalker Ranch, and Jeff Renel from eTalk TV. And let's get right back into it. Let me pull up the thing that does the stuff. There we go. So Ryan, I'm curious, what was the kicker that, led you to decide, okay, that's it. I'm starting Space Wolf Research. I'm buying this property out there. I'm going to try to get to the bottom of this. What was that final straw that broke the camel's back that led you to embrace such an endeavor?
So, what was prior to Space Wolf Research, that location was known by the local researchers, myself, and there weren't that many of us, and some of the older guys, like Dave Rosenfeld, Ryan Layton, and Junior Hicks, Frank Salisbury. That was known as the Southern Vantage Point, and it was basically the go-to because it was the safest place to be, because there's not a ton there. Like I said, there's a 360-degree view, so anything coming at you, you'll probably see it coming at you. But also, it has the very best 360-degree view that we could find available to us back then. So I was in love with the place already. When it was listed for sale, I jumped. I just absolutely jumped on it, and I basically did whatever I could to secure it. It took over a year to actually get the deal done, and since I purchased it, I've kind of coordinated with other individuals, one of which we mentioned for a moment is Ray. I think we mentioned him, or it might have been off air. And Ray is very involved in the consciousness aspect of this. So I sold him a portion of the property, and he runs these consciousness technologies that we can get into. But yeah, Space Wolf Research, it almost has always been a dream of mine. So when I had the opportunity, I just had to do it. And I didn't see a problem with it. Of course, I had to ask my wife, and she thought I was completely crazy. But after, putting in cameras and a full-time caretaker, Wi-Fi, we have a variety of cameras and tracking systems throughout the property. And I thought it would be a really good addition to just my overall questioning and research, and just my life experience. It's sort of a passion project. I thought it'd be a really good addition to that. And yeah, I haven't really, come forward about that, but it was almost as if the opportunity presented itself. And I already felt so connected with the property that I just had to do it.
Beautiful. Yeah, like it was meant to be. And yeah, so what are some of the how long did it? Well, first of all, real quick, Jeff just sent me an interesting photo from where he's at. Why don't you go ahead and describe what you just sent me?
Well, at first I've never seen the lights before, but now I think it's probably what would make the most sense is maybe a tour group in Skinwalker right now from the Phenomenon. From my understanding is they only went to the gate and that was it, but all of a sudden a bunch of lights appeared alongside the basin of the mesa of
Yeah, man, I see those. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks interesting. Very interesting. And so what? What year was that, by the way, that you secured that deal and everything got started over there for you. How long have you been over there?
So I originally secured the property. Let's see, it got, I think they thought about selling it. They put it on the market, took it off. I remember talking to some people involved up there, and it's been, let's see, off the top of my head, I would have to say, I don't have the paperwork in front of me, so I don't want to lie here. But yeah, it's been about 7-8 years, and
already
it's gosh, yeah, I guess it's been about 7 or 8 years, and since then, I mean, we've had so many things happen, just unbelievable things, stuff that it's a lot of stuff that we haven't come forward about. And we've utilized all kinds of different aspects of research. We have super futuristic things as well as super ancient technologies. We even have these ancient stone heads from Peru that are on the property and used from an ancient technology perspective. And we have like super futuristic things that have been inserted into like trees and walls and places, things you can't even see. There's so much that's taken place at the base camp. I mean, where do I start? There has been...
Yeah, what are some of some of the more crazier things that you can go public with?
Okay, so this is very impressive because it's fairly new and different, and I haven't really gone public with it for the most part, which is a situation I haven't really come forward about yet because it's currently being investigated, but it's something I'd like to talk to you about. It's an 8,700-pound, 40-foot storage container, which was moved on the property by unknown methods. It appears to have been airlifted somehow or bounced electromagnetically. There's no drag marks, no tire marks around the event. It seems to have bent the tin roof on the base camp cabin that it came down next to. And the 40-foot container has strange radiation readings and was magnetized after the event. Although those readings seem to have been going down slowly over time. All the cameras on the property went down when the event transpired. Wow. Also, the full-time caretakers saw and heard nothing. We also had people camping nearby. They saw and heard nothing. We've retained Mindwise Consulting, which is the remote viewing consultation firm, which was originally the Nevada Remote Viewers Association. And they were the same firm that Robert Bigelow used to view his ranch beside us. And the similarities between the remote viewers around the globe and what they saw and what they were tasked to send to me are uncanny. So besides that, there's an array of drastic high strangeness which takes place from time to time. And I don't mind forwarding you their tasking information. It's crazy, Gigi. But we've had daytime lightning or something similar to that vaporize a massive RV camper in plain sight, and it burned our data center down in the past. We rebuilt.
Wow.
It's super wild. And, it's just stuff that is so in your face. That was, right after we got the property. And, I'm going to also track down the paperwork here since I'm in my office to give you exact dates since we got the deed and all that. But yeah, there's been, ever since we started, stuff has happened. I remember with our first caretaker, the moment I put the cabin down there, the base camp towards where we had a lot of the things take place, it was the same night, I believe, that was put down. For lack of a better word, 3 bipedal wolf-like entities jumped over the fence, and the caretaker and somebody who was visiting him at the time were out on the front porch of the caretaker's quarters up front, and they saw this happen, and they were like, oh my gosh. And he was not a believer at that point. And he went inside and loaded his weapon, which was a huge caliber rifle. His buddy had a rifle in the truck and grabbed it. And they started walking down this ranch road towards the cabin where these things were jumping up and pulling cameras off of stuff and tossing them back and forth playfully, just reckless abandon, right? Just mayhem. And he yelled, "You're obviously trespassing, halt, what are you doing?" They totally ignored playfully. As he got closer, these guys got a little bit spooked. And these are guys that grew up in the area. They're hunters. They are, dead shots with rifles. And these things did not seem scared at all. And I say things because they were acting somewhat animalistic. As they got near these three entities, they kind of hunkered down on their haunches, much like a dog would when it sits. And that's when the emotions went through the roof for these two guys. And they shouted some other orders. And when the things stood up, they unloaded. And they claim they hit them all. And the story gets weirder after that. But that's just, I don't want to take up all the time. But that's just kind of the stuff that's been happening ever since the property was turned into Space Wolf research.
Wow. Yeah, there's... Man, there's... some of these stories are... So does anybody... Because, Skinwalker Ranch itself is... Yeah, it's typically... it's private property, right? Like, you can't just... I can't just drive there and just walk in there, right?
No, everything is very secured, and they also have 24-hour caretakers on site. It's all very secured, and there have been very highly funded government projects that have taken place in this area. So with that comes an added element of security, and when you get UFOs and technology and the government together, this can be an interesting mix. It's not somewhere you just want to be, walking into.
Yeah. And are there any, when it comes to the government side of the research being done there, have there been any leaked information or any leaked documents, perhaps through FOIA or any other means, about any potential conclusions that these government-funded projects have come to? About, this kind of answers the Rocker's question about what exactly and overall what the hell is going on there.
Well, as you are aware, whenever the government sees a potential threat, they try to assess and analyze it. And there is the theory, as you're mentioning, that leaked belief that when there is a potential threat, the military often wants to weaponize it. And there are other intrinsic items from a trickery standpoint, because we're talking about something that is precognitive. There is also the theory, and this is an area that has had SAP protocols, which are special access programs, which are usually reserved for things like the safety of the president. So this is really highly secretive, very highly funded in some cases. I'm trying to be careful how I say this, but yes, the Pentagon believes that there is, for example, and I can say this honestly without too much fear, that it has been collaborating and designing precognitive AI that can predict events days in advance. And everybody knows they're being watched to some level, and the government has a secret system that, the National Security Administration spies on many people every hour of every day. We know this because of Snowden, and I know this because I know some of the people who claim to have built it. But when you have a precognitive sentient intelligence that can surpass that and it's naturally occurring and seems predatory in nature with natural instincts and behaves like an animal in the middle of nowhere. I mean, that is fascinating from any research perspective. So, I mean, I can't blame them.
Yeah. And, you know, and what do you think about, like, I'm sure you've heard those stories of, you know, like families that used to live on the ranch, like back in the day, where, you know, the wife would come in, put away all of her groceries, and then step into the other room and come back, and all the groceries are back in the bags. You know, have you heard that? Have you heard that story?
Yes, Gwen Sherman, very, very, very interesting tale, and it's just as you mentioned. It's this trickster mentality that is almost hilarious, and this happens from time to time. As well as Terry Sherman, her husband, had a post hole digger, you know, which are very heavy mechanical devices, and they were building a fence, and you know, they turned around, and moments later they turned back, and it's gone. And he didn't find it for quite some time, and when he did find it, it was high up in a tree. You know, how in the hell do you get this? And I've encountered this myself. Like, you have to be so cognizant of where you put things. Like, you almost have to put your car keys around your neck, and you almost have to put your cell phone like strapped to your body, things like that, because I've had those things moved around the property in such a way. You know, when you do Find My iPhone, it'll show it in different counties from 1 second to the next. And on my last trip out there, actually, 2 hours of trying to find my newly purchased iPhone 13, and it finally pinged on the property, and we found it, and it was nowhere. We had not left the base camp that morning, so it was nowhere where we had gone. It was impossible. I had just used it inside of this cabin moments before the 2-hour search of death for this phone, and when we did find it, it was at the bottom of a backpack. And I mean, it's completely impossible the way this trickster rises to the occasion and just messes with you on a way that is, you know, intimidating.
Yeah, and you know, because it seems like they can damn well do pretty much whatever they want, you know, to you or to your things. And it's interesting that they don't, as far as I've, you know, like if they wanted to, it seems like they could really cause some serious physical harm to humans, but they seem to, at least in some of these incidents, seem to, it's almost like they're just toying with us, you know? So there is that predatory sense in some of the other phenomena that happens there, especially to the animals. But when it comes to humans, they seem to, you know, it's almost like they're just like, let it be known, we can do this. But they're choosing not to harm humans, unless there are cases of humans being harmed that I'm not aware of. But what was that the same family with the you know, the groceries being unpacked and the that machinery being up in the tree? Was that the same family that had the experience with the bulls, where the bulls disappeared and they ended up in that container somehow, like impossibly? Was that same family?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the same family, and it's
yeah. Can you explain? Because that's an interesting one. Can you explain that story to the audience for those that haven't heard?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, and this, to assess the methods that this intelligence examines its prey. Terry and Gwen Sherman were discussing one day. These prize Angus bulls were, you know, the holy grail of his herd. This is, you know, the goods, so to speak. And one day they were jokingly discussing between themselves. They mentioned, you know, it's a good thing that it hasn't messed with our bulls yet. And almost, you know, as if enticed by that comment. I mean, this is where the precognition is just spooky. They couldn't find the bulls all of a sudden after having that quick comment to one another. And they frantically searched the property, could not find them anywhere. Make a long story short, these bulls were found in a very small shed, crammed in, which would be impossible to do even if you had bulldozers on these things. They were in a catatonic state, so it seems like they were totally out of it and just placed in there like Legos or puzzle pieces stacked on each other. And when he opened the shed, he could not believe his eyes that they were in there. And then they kind of came to. So, yeah, it's absolute startling phenomena that takes place.
Yeah, because I mean, if you really somehow managed to cram a bunch of bulls in there, they would be freaking out. They'd be bucking and kicking and ramming their face against the wall trying to get out of there. But they weren't. They were, like you said, in like a catatonic state, just sort of hypnotized almost. And that one that one's really interesting to me. And man, yeah, I've really got to make my way out there. I want to experience some of this stuff. What is, because as you've said, you've had all kinds of experiences out there yourself since you've been in the area. Have you ever felt, seriously, you've felt confused and you've been mystified, but have any events happened that actually made you feel threatened or fear in any sort of way? Or is it more just mysterious and curious?
That's such a good question, Gigi, because, as you mentioned, the power that this phenomena has, that there's evidence of, it could literally be very harmful. However, it seems to, for the most part, not try to be. But to answer your question, yes. I've been injured. Other people have been injured very badly. And there are many events that I could point to. Some are more secret. Others are more, I can be more honest about. But yeah, I've been scared to death. Had my emotions played with. Others as well. Lots of mind games, as well as actual injuries. I was researching a cow that had perished. It seemed to be under strange circumstances, and I was with another researcher, Rick, and we got pretty close to this thing. And I remember that one foot in particular was near the animal at all times while we were taking pictures, going back through the analysis of this death. And when I got back home, that particular foot began to lose feeling. And at first it was just kind of numb, and then numb more of the time. And pretty soon I could not feel it at all. And I wasn't able to walk. So I saw my orthopedic surgeon. He checked it out and he said, "This is startling because this is a neurological injury and I'm not sure how this could have happened. Whoa. What have you done lately?" And, it's that's just one case. It took a lot of work to get it back and get it back to where it was functioning. But I was really scared about it and thought I might be a cripple. Other events on this recent trip where I took my mother with me for a week, when we got back home, she immediately had her lymph nodes on the back of her neck protruding, and she had to go and get an MRI. We're still waiting on some of the results from that. It's since gone down. That might be because they gave her some iodine. But yeah, some possible radiation sickness type things take place, as well as radiation burns. I had red marks all over my body that took some time to go away. So there is a very real danger. And I know of a number of cases of people that have been extremely injured in the area. And a lot of those I can't talk about, but it's spooky.
Wow.
Yeah, I know last time I was here was right before you noticed that your Conact was moved, the storage shed. And I don't have bladder issues at all, but I know when I left here, I had severe bladder issues, and I don't know, if it was just coincidence or whatever. But you say that's when you had the radiation spike, but I mean, to me, it just finally started to go away. But for at least a good 2-3 weeks, I mean, I had some severe bladder issues and stuff, and then it just was a mild issue until just recently and stuff. It just finally went away, but I don't know if that has anything to do with here, but I can tell you I didn't have it before I came that weekend, and that was just days before you guys noticed that your Conact was moved out here. And on that note is what he was talking about earlier. I can contest to what he's saying. There's no marks in the ground out here. When he first told me about it, because I noticed, I mean, I've been out here a few times before, so I realized that Conact was moved. And I'm like, oh, well, Ryan moved to Conact, great. And just inside my head, I noticed that there was really no marks on the ground, and I thought it was weird because I've actually helped people move Conacts these size. And it takes quite a bit of effort to move one of these things. We had a huge front loader to move one. And that's what I would expect would be the cheapest, easiest way to move one of these things. So I don't see why Ryan would hire a helicopter to move his Conact. But I can tell you there's no marks in the ground. If you would have used a front loader, you would have the forks going underneath the Conact to be able to pick it up to begin with. There's none of that. I'll take pictures and send them to you tomorrow, Gigi, if you want.
Yeah.
That'll show you. I was looking at it this morning because I wanted to reassure myself that that's exactly what I saw and the very first time. And you can even see where the Conact was in position before, because you can see the weeds, how they had grown around where it was sitting before. And you can see there's no marks in the ground at all. And so it's really crazy that this has moved. So I'm wondering with you, Ryan, what my question would be to you really quick is what I'm wondering. Did you move any of these cameras at all, or all these cameras in the exact same position that they were in before this Conact was moved?
So some of them, yeah, and others I've pointed in different directions to catch things that we've had happen since, like these strange little altars that seem to be built sometimes out of rock, wood, and animal skulls at times throughout the property. And as I mentioned to Gigi, that strange light that my mom and I, trying to catch a glimpse of some of those things, but some of the general directions have remained the same.
Yeah, because some look like they're in the exact same position that I remember them, and that's why I'm asking, because I'm not sure about all of them. And the reason I'm asking is because now I'm analyzing it going, okay, well, if by chance you brought somebody over here to lift it with a helicopter, then you have to hook up on the top here, which they have positions where you can hook it with chains and lift it with either a crane, which this is how they get them off of the ships when they have when they're on shipping containers. That's how you'll get them off, is by a crane. But you can also lift it with a helicopter. But I'm looking on there, looking to see if it looks like there's any damage from any type of hook being put in there from them being lifted, because like you said earlier, Ryan, I'm not sure exactly how much these things weigh, but I know they weigh a lot by us moving them before with a front loader. So if you had it and you were lifting it up and moving it with a helicopter that had chains going down into all four hooks around this thing and lifting it up, I would assume there would be actual rubbing marks and damage marks in these hooks where the hooks would go on this Conact, and you would see something at least at one of the four positions that you could hook this. And I can tell you right now, I don't see any damage at all, any wear marks, anything where it could have been hooked, picked up, and moved at all. this thing, to me, is a huge mystery. I don't see, truthfully, how it could have been moved.
Yeah,
that's a good thing to bring up, because let's discuss that for a minute. I first reached out to James Keenan and told him, hey,
real quick, I hate to cut you off, but we do have to squeeze in our last commercial break right this very now. But let's pause right there, and we'll let you respond to Jeff as soon as you get back. Sound good?
For sure.
All right, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Shift Happens here for the Fringe FM. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP, and we're here tonight with Ryan Burns from Space Wolf Research Center out there by Skinwalker Ranch, and Jeff Renel from eTalk TV, and we'll be back and picking right back up where we left off in just a few short commercially minutes. Don't go anywhere.
I've got a secret I cannot say. They might have movement to give it away.
Thousands of people are having paranormal experiences with ghosts, demons, shadow people, dogmen, Bigfoot, and more. Their stories need to be told, and they are being told. Dark Waters, the renowned storyteller, invites you to join at IamDarkWaters.com. For just a few dollars a month, you can listen to some of the most hair-raising and compelling stories on the planet. You'll have access to real-life stories told by Dark Waters, thousands of hours of content. Their encounters are being told, and told by the best, at IamDarkWaters.com. Listen to stories like The Rabbit Man, the Dogman Encounter in Silas, Alabama, The Man with No Face, The Other Woman, A Day Ahead of the Devil, Dogman Murder in Hurricane Ida, even a story of someone trying to kill a dogman. Louisiana water demon stories. Sign up today and become a member at IamDarkWaters.com. That's IamDarkWaters.com.
Are we living in a simulation? Listen live each week as we expand our awareness and explore the multitude of mysteries in this world. Escape the simulation live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern with me, Jess Rogie, here on the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting.
Musicians experience a lot of frustration with music marketing and promotion. They have no idea how to get their music heard, and they're spending hours sending emails, making phone calls, and hitting up their friends to promote them. With our industry-powered digital marketing platform, we can set up your media plan in minutes. Our team will automatically distribute your music across all the best channels, so you can focus on actually making the music. Submit your music today on our website at mymusicpromoter.com. That's mymusicpromoter.com.
Hey, this is Anthony Tyler, host of Black Hoodie Alchemy, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Listen, as we explore the mysteries of the universe, the unknown, high strangeness, consciousness, and our human potential. Lighting the Void is an eclectic program that strives to ignite the late night with stimulating conversations. Join us on The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Have you suffered in silence or experienced stress from a paranormal experience? Even if it happened 20 years ago, when thinking or talking about it today still makes you feel sick to your stomach or makes your heart beat faster, or you suddenly can't breathe. Maybe you even feel those old familiar signs of a panic attack trying to reach the surface. You could have unprocessed emotional responses. Those reactions of terror and trauma are no different than living through a horrible assault, childhood abuse, or a terrible car accident. It can be nearly impossible to find help. The very instance of seeing a ghost or encountering a cryptid could be clinically described as seeing or hearing things that aren't there. You could be considered psychotic, or at best, you're just not taken seriously. Out of a growing mountain of research, the National Institute for Integrative Healthcare showed that 8 out of 10 veterans who completed just 6 one-hour EFT sessions no longer tested positive for PTSD. If you've had paranormal trauma, you can contact Metaphorical Archaeology by calling 214-995-3754. Again, that's 214-995-3754 for a discreet consultation.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for the Fringe FM. This is Shift Happens. I'm your host, Gigi, along with our co-host, JP.
Oh, yeah.
And we are here tonight with Ryan Burns from Space Wolf Research Center out there by Skinwalker Ranch, and Jeff Renel from eTalk TV. Now, let's waste no time and let's get right back into where I had to cut you off there, Ryan.
Yeah, I was just going to tell Jeff that one gentleman that he was talking about, James, he's been to a variety of the ranches there in the Uinta Basin that have strange phenomena occur. And he took some magnetic readings trying to explain the transient magnetic anomalies. And he found that one particular location that was very close to where this container was previously located, this 8,700-pound steel container, he found that the ground images at that particular location and the readings were, well, unbelievable. In fact, it was the second highest reading that had come from a location with a major magnetic anomaly on the planet, right there at Space Wolf Research, which was also close to around where the lightning strike location was. And these major magnetic anomalies and the magnetometer that he used to get ground images and readings from the location usually gives someone an inkling that there is a void underneath the property or something underground that is doing that. And when you get a negative reading that is that off the spectrum, and I think he had mentioned that the wildest reading ever recorded was somewhere in South America, but he anyway, it was kind of mind blowing to me, and my gut says that he may have an inkling as far as what may have moved it, that it was either magnetically lifted by the Earth itself and just kind of bounced like magnets do when they have reverse polarities. But then there are others that think it may have been moved slightly differently. And it's hard because of the erratic radiation readings that are kind of beyond explanation, and the data, seeing the RF and other radiation types, gamma, beta, etc. What's interesting is there's like a decay, an exponential decay process that takes place. So if you can estimate the field strength of these readings and how they go down over time, you can get a better idea of how powerful the surge was initially. And that's kind of why we're still investigating. But to answer Jeff's question, James thought it just bounced. Like there was this extreme electromagnetic pulse, for lack of a better word, that came from the geology in the area or from underground, and it just bounced. Others, Many of the remote viewers have, like I said, very similar reports on what they believe took place. And I'm a member of the International Remote Viewers Association, IRVA, and also a member of the Society for Scientific Exploration. And I've had the benefit of having, some of the best viewers around the world tasked to do this. And so I definitely respect what they believe took place. But it's a quandary, man. It's a very strange. More work needs to be done.
So let me ask you then. So you're saying that the remote viewers kind of see it the same way that James Keenan kind of has an outlook on it. Is that correct? And then I have another question for you after that.
Good question. And no, they do not. They see it slightly differently. They see it utilizing. Oh man, how do I put this? Okay, there is a military connection, is what I can say, and there is some
kind of like the explanation you told me originally. So if you don't want to say that over the air,
that's exactly right.
Okay, so let me ask you this, my next question, because I think I'm safe to ask this. When you first went back into the Connacht to check everything out, did you find things were shuffled around and moved around, like it was, picked up, jerked around, moved around? Not even aggressively, but just the way something would be moved like that, because again, these things are not easily moved. And so if nobody packed away the belonging, I don't have any idea what you have inside there, but if you have things inside that are not packed away properly, then they're going to probably shuffle around, fly around, whatever. Did you find things that were moved around inside your Connacht when you first went back in?
Yes, they were moved. And what is strange about that is they weren't moved much, but they were moved. It was just enough to make you scratch your head.
More like somebody looked at it, or more like it moved because of the moving of the Connacht?
Difficult, very difficult to determine. And for the listeners, Jeff, and also something that James had mentioned is he knows a lot of helicopter pilots and spoke with some of them. And to be able to airlift this and place it where it is located, it's right, and you're there, so you can kind of attest to this, how close it is to that cabin. He said, there's no way. There's no way with winds and, airlift that there would be some serious damage.
You remember our first conversation when you brought it up to me, and again, this was, I came home, I think on Sunday or Monday, I forget when I actually came home that weekend, and you told me about it on Wednesday or Thursday. And so if you remember our first conversation, that was some of the things I brought up to you. I was like, wow, fucking Ryan moved it. Great. Because I think it's way better fitting where it's at now than where it was before. But I'm like looking at it and I'm like, well, they didn't get it very straight. But then again, I know how hard it is to move these things. So I understood. I was like, oh, because it is crooked to the cabin you have here. And you had a trailer that was slammed up against it basically as well, too, but at an angle. And so all of this to me was weird, but I never questioned it when I was here because, again, I figured you moved it, and I noticed that there was no markings on the ground as well either at that point, because that's one of the first things I brought up to you when you mentioned this to me. And that's why I was excited to get out here to check it out. Unfortunately, I didn't bring anything metal to stick up against your Connacht yet, but I want to try to get at least a clothespin or not a clothespin, but a paper clip or something to stick up there and see if it's still magnetic in any way. But I have seen your video, so if it's on YouTube, definitely let people know where they can see that, because that was definitely impressive what you sent to me earlier.
And you brought up a really good point, Jeff, which is that trailer that it was put up next to. It was like Tetris. It wasn't just put up next to this cabin. It was slid in next to a trailer that it was so close. I think an inch would be exaggerating.
Yeah, I thought they were touching myself. I actually thought you pushed the trailer up there against it late, afterwards, because I thought they were basically touching. So yes, within an inch for sure. And they were just at such a weird angle to each other. I was just like, I just figured you guys were in a rush or something. That was the only thing that made sense, because the way everything was in position didn't make sense at all.
So many strange factors for sure.
I got a question. Truly amazing. Yes, we do have a caller in her, and that is none other than Eric Awakening Man. Fire away, Eric.
Hey guys. So 2 questions. First question is, if you can say, Ryan, do you guys have technology or devices that's monitoring what's happening under the dirt? Because I'm thinking in my mind that whatever moved that maybe didn't come from the ground above or the sky above, but maybe from the dirt below.
That is such a good question. Yeah. We do have technology that, basically, from an investigation standpoint, there is some stuff that is designed exclusively for the property at this point. And not only does it measure the electromagnetic field, but it also shows like the ambient temperature around the meters at the same time, and some other stuff that is going to be put in, which is going to hopefully show cold spots simultaneously. So what's really strange is how these EMF and temperature areas correlate to one another. There seem to be multiple things going on. So there seems to be electromagnetic frequencies that will spike, and then there's also a radiation aspect to this that will it's also very transient. And something that is very strange about the ground in general that needs to be addressed is that you will have, for lack of a better word, these cracks open up in the ground, much like there is some kind of earthquake activity, but there's no earthquake. So you'll have like these cracks open up in the ground, and sometimes these cracks will go down substantial amounts. And then from one day to the next, they'll close back up. They will be gone. And that's something else we're looking into. But this has happened for some time. We're not sure if it's paranormal. A lot of the locals in the area can attest to this, and it's something that's very common. So I'm not sure where it's all going to lead.
Okay, one more question because there's not a lot of time. So this hitchhiker thing, I'm going to be honest with you. I consider myself a pretty ballsy guy, but I think Jeff's a little more ballsy than me because he's willing to risk that chance of having the hitchhiker follow him home. But my question, Ryan, is this: can you talk about, or has there ever been a situation where the hitchhiker literally walked in, so to speak, to that human, and then it altered that human's behavior and so on? I mean, like a walk-in. Has that happened? Instead of a skin walker, a skin walk-in?
Super good question. It has to be addressed because in a new book by George Knapp and Colm Kelleher, who have a long history with the area, a book called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. This is a book that had to be okayed by the Pentagon before they could publish it. They talk about something that's super baffling, disturbing, and it's this hitchhiker effect that you're talking about, where people will come from back east, do what they're doing. These are high government individuals. They'll go back home, and in areas where they should not be seeing these creatures, werewolf-like creatures will be prowling around their homes. Incidents as far as the mental states of some of these people and their companions definitely take place. And it's a pretty scary thing because the Pentagon investigation into UFOs and the paranormal is very, very concerned about this and its massive scope, because in the book itself, I believe George Knapp and Colm Kelleher described it akin to a virus almost, that you go to this area and you pick up this almost contagion that comes home with you, but it manifests in a paranormal way. So it's pretty fascinating, baffling, and concerning, man. Big time.
Well, if you guys notice any change in me, just slap me in the face, you know.
And one last comment is, you may know this, and I found this out when I was doing a little digging around a few months ago, that Skinwalkers at the Pentagon is not the first book of its type. There was a book written, I think it was 20 or 30 years ago, I don't remember the exact time, but Aliens at the Pentagon. Did you hear about that? In other words, I haven't really read the book, but I'm wondering if they took a lot of the material from the Aliens at the Pentagon, and just because Skinwalkers is obviously a catchy term right now, they just reworded some stories and put it together and called it Skinwalkers at the Pentagon.
Well, you brought up something really crazy, because the Pentagon is officially in the UFO investigation business, and they have an anomaly resolution office. Basically, we're talking about X-Files type of things and scenarios. And I have heard of Aliens at the Pentagon, and it was, for its time, very interesting. The interesting thing about Skinwalkers at the Pentagon is that it has to be declassified as far as these encounters, abductions, cover up. I mean, there's so much going on that it's strange that it has to be declassified when we're talking about stuff that should not exist. And the majority of the population have a hard time wrapping their heads around. And yet the Pentagon has to declassify these topics before these authors can come forward with them. So that should give you some firsthand,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one last thing is I'm wondering if one day, when something really, 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 really crazy happens and it's recorded, if the Men in Black are going to show up and knock on your door, brother.
I'm sure time will tell. Time will tell. And we went bumper to bumper. We are out of time. We do have to go. Thanks for everybody that came on the show tonight. Ryan Burns, Jeff Renel. You can catch Jeff Renel over at etalk.tv. He's got his show over there, and as well as his radio station over there, and all kinds of great shows featured over there. And Ryan, I believe you have your own podcast, right? Where can people catch that?
You bet. You just go to Hero Paranormal on Anchor, Apple, Podbean, anywhere you can find podcasts. There should be something there. So just Hero Paranormal stands for the Hyper Anomalous Esoteric Research Organization, but Hero for short. Just Hero Paranormal, and that's me.
Fantastic. And then we've got the links over on the guest info page to Space Wolf Research and their Facebook over at shifthappensradio.com. So go to the guest info page and click the links there, and or just go to spacewolfresearch.com. And there you have it. Fantastic show, guys. Thanks for coming on in such short notice. Really appreciate you.
Hey, no problem. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Always awesome, Gigi. Thank you.
Definitely.
Likewise. And thanks, Ryan, for letting me be here this weekend.
Absolutely.
You bet. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. This has been Shift Happens here for the Fringe FM. This show is hosted and produced by yours truly, Gigi. You can follow me on Twitter at GigiRabbit1 and follow the show over at Shift Happens Pod on Twitter, or just go to shifthappensradio.com. All of our social media links are there. Get there while you can status. Co-host is JP. You can follow him on Twitter at RePerceptions. Roaming reporter, as always, is Eric Awakening Man, and our associate producer is Brad Harris. Thanks, Brad Harris. And as always, all blames and faults go to Fran. That's right. Hashtag Fran's fault. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in, but don't go too far, because coming up next is Lighting the Void with Joe Roop, and then after that is the Jess Rogie Show, right here on the Fringe FM. All right, thanks for tuning in, folks, and we will see you next week. All right, have a great weekend, everyone. Cheers to you.